There's never been a better time than now to stop what you're doing and tune in to Straight Up, TAB Radio's weekly podcast that will guide you through the difficult journey that is the punt. Whether it be racing or sport, the Straight Up team has your back. Now, from the studios of TAB Radio, welcome to Straight Up.
Very good afternoon to Rylie Morgan.
Marty.
Oh,
Marty.
Bit going on, isn't there?
Oh, it's all happening, Mart.
What have you done? I told you there'd be thunderstorms today.
You did?
Wow, they've certainly come down. There's puddles everywhere. Now, the latest we've got, Vinny means, we just caught up with Vin. There was talk about going to tomorrow, but that's off. That was premature.
Golf.
And
golf for Lockie then.
Yeah, there'll be golf being played, but they're looking like 12 races next Wednesday.
Wow.
12.
Have fun with that, McGinnity.
There you go. What have you got before we go for Dankz Furniture to our man Micky McGuane?
Oh, I've got plenty, Mart. Footy's in its entirety is back.
You're up, aren't you? You're up for this.
How good.
Yeah. All right, well,
How good. And it all kicks off tonight.
No further ado.
McGuane gets past Brown. They're lifting the pies. They can sense it. McGuane's had 5 bounces. Nearly get another one. Round he goes. In he goes to an open goal. Micky McGuane, goal of the year.
Mick McGuane joins us on Straight Up for this AFL preview thanks to Dankz Furniture.
You won't see better than that.
With 6 local stores in the metro area, there's one near you.
Ah, Mickey, can you feel it?
Certainly can over here, knowing full well that there's going to be a clash between two arch rivals, but probably both at different spectrums of where their footy clubs are at. Richmond have gone young, and Carlton, they'll go all out trying to win a premiership because they've been starved of one for the last 30 years.
Good afternoon, Mickey. Yes, footy is back in its entirety tonight, and footy's back at its spiritual home as well, the MCG in Melbourne.
Yeah, absolutely. Nothing better. Beautiful night over here. Sun's still out, hardly a cloud in the sky. So we're anticipating, north of 80,000, I would have thought, between these two arch rivals, even though probably a lot of Richmond fans are resigned to the fact that they're not going to be competitive throughout the course of this year, but they love going to support their club, and more importantly, there's going to be 3 young players that are going to debut for the Richmond Footy Club, and I think that always gives optimism and hope for the fans to go out and watch their young guns of the future.
Teams are in, by the way, and they have been named Trainer, Lawler, Armstrong, and the new players for Carlton are Lucas Camporeale, Nick Haynes and Francis Evans. So Haynes and Evans debuting for a new club there for Carlton.
Yeah, absolutely. Really intrigued to see how young Lucas Camporeale will play. We know his father, Scotty, was a terrific player. Could find the footy, use it, run and carry, break lines, and we know what Haynes stands for. The question I've got over Haynes at Carlton, he could hardly get into the GWS team last year. He's a year older. Francis Evans has already had 2 homes, really hasn't cut the mustard in either of those places in Geelong and Port Adelaide. But as we know, and I wrote a pretty strong article, I think, this morning or yesterday online and in today's Herald Sun about the biggest misconcern, as far as I'm concerned, is the small forward role at the Carlton Footy Club. Knowing full well they had Eddie Betts, lost him. They've tried to get Owies to be that man. They've lost him, kicked 33 goals last year. And they've got Fantasia, Motlop, Durden, all these types of boys on the list. Are they going to elevate their game to be a 30 to 40 goal kicker? We'll have to wait and see. And they've probably got White and Francis Evans as backup in case those other 3 players on that list, Fantasia's been injury prone, as we know, don't measure up and be the forward pressure player they want, but also that creative player that can hit the scoreboard, get in front and square, getting into the right spots to receive it, manufacturing a stoppage goal at forward 50 stoppage, all that sort of stuff that comes a part of their craft.
Well, they're certainly going to need to, Mick. They can't just rely on the Twin Towers at all times this season, so they are going to need to find a season from one of those small forwards, Carlton, in their front half, who are going to get a lot more opportunity this year. And good to see Tom Lynch back as well, who's really struggled the past 24 months. He's only played 8 games over the course of the last 2 home and away seasons, so I'm sure Richmond will be hoping that they can get a full season, or at least close to a full season, out of Tom Lynch as as well, who makes his return this evening. Just taking a look at these markets for tonight's game, Mick, with Tab Touch, Carlton $1.05, understandably very short, Richmond $10.50. The line is at 47.5 points, and the unders-overs 177.5. It's a pretty big line, Mick, given Carlton are missing some pretty important players.
Yeah, absolutely. One would think they'll win and win easy. How do you define easy? They'll control a lot of the footy, I reckon. Watching Richmond against Collingwood, I thought they were pretty good for about a 40-minute block. If they had converted, the scoreboard would have looked a lot better than what it was, and they were probably criticised over here about how poor they were in that Collingwood game to last the journey, allow Collingwood to score at will. Collingwood got the ball in soft spots to convert. That's why their accuracy was so high. But in saying that, I thought their effort and their intent for about a 40-minute patch was really good. Lee Matthews, who used to coach us back 30-odd years ago, he used to use a phrase quite often, hard enough, long enough. I thought we saw the hard enough, but it wasn't for long enough. And if they can narrow that gap between being hard for longer and get it close to the 120 minutes they'll play with the intent that we saw for that 40-minute patch, that line of 47.5 could become quite enticing to back Richmond under.
Richmond under, okay. Interesting. Okay, apart from the debutants, what do we need to see from your eyes from Richmond tonight against Carlton?
I want to see a definable style. What do they stand for? I just felt Adam Muse in the chair last year probably chopped and changed a little bit. I reckon it probably created some confusion amongst the playing group, and some of the elder statesmen that aren't there no more, I've heard on the grapevine that might have been the case, and I can probably concur with that. So I just want to see if there's a definable brand of footy that they want to be aligned to, and we'll have to find that out. Is it contest? Is it stoppage? Is it transition? Is it kick mark? All these type of things come to your mind. They want to play with width. They want to attack the corridor. What direction do they want to exit out of defensive 50? Do they want to play a front half game? What's their pressure forward 50 like? Do they come behind their attack and really squeeze it and make it really difficult for a poor kicking team out of defence like Carlton can be, if pressured, to create another repeat inside 50 and then score on the back of that? So I'm really intrigued to see how they want to play.
Moving on to tomorrow night's game, the Hawks are at home taking on the Bombers, who have had the wood on the Hawks in recent years. Marty, it's fair to say, Hawthorn $1.29, Essendon $3.50, the line at 21.5 points, and the total points 168.5. Mick, I do think the Hawks will get the job done, but the line does look quite generous given the Bombers have had a good recent record up against the Hawks.
I reckon it's always intriguing too, knowing full well that one team's already had a hit-out, and Hawthorn's hit-out was quite solid last week. When challenged in that third quarter, they found a way to win again, and Essendon going into this game fresh. So what does that mean? I wish we knew, because I thought Hawthorn was the way they performed last week, even though they got Warple not playing. He'll be out with that ankle injury for 4 weeks, probably Josh Ward, I'd think comes in that like-for-like replacement through the middle of the ground. And Essendon has still got their question marks over them as far as I'm concerned. Are they a genuine, 14-win type team over the course of the year so they can qualify? I've still got my reservations. Peter Wright won't play with an ankle. Huge reliance on Caddy and Kako, 2 young players. I don't think that's fair. Just want to let them play and go about their stuff. But if they're banking on those 2 boys with Langford to kick a winning score, Noah Jones has gone out to a wing, where their score's going to come from, because you're coming up against a defensive setup with Barras, who was on display last week. What a recruit he's going to be. Battle can play tall or small. Sicily, they had the luxury of him starring early, got a defensive forward put on him in Haywood, and then they swing him forward to probably seal the game. So they're a really good team, Hawthorn. That's why last week when we discussed it, boys, they were my pick to win the premiership. Thought they'd play GWS, and both those teams hit the ground running last week, even though the GWS team had a lot of talented players not playing.
So Hawthorn to win, do they cover the 21.5?
I'll put them in a multi, just head-to-head to be safe.
Okay, to win. Next game to look at?
Next game to look at is Geelong and Freo, GMHBA Stadium. Geelong $1.46 favourites. Freo at $2.70. We have heard Michael Walters and Shai Bolton have not travelled with the team, so they have both been ruled out of this opening clash. The line at 13.5 points, and the total points 171.5.
So on the back of Bolton and Walters, because I did have a question mark reading and doing some research that they wouldn't play. sounds like Pearce and Draper will, but does Sam Sturt and Bailey Banfield come in to replace Bolton and Walters to be part of their 23? Is that the way you're thinking, or does Murphy Reid get a chance?
Murphy Reid has been a confirmed debutant, but we still don't have confirmation, Mick, at our end of those final teams, but you would suspect that Banfield would play some sort of a part given who is missing for the Dockers. We know Bolton and Walters only add to Hayden Young, who's not going to be there as well. We know Nat Fyfe, who's probably a best 23 question mark this season. He won't be playing either. He's had an interrupted pre-season, which has been a trend for him really over the last few years. So it's going to be a Fremantle Dockers, Mick, that certainly aren't at 100%.
Yeah, and that's a concern. You need your best personnel to jump on a plane and travel and go down to GMHBA and perform at your absolute best. But in saying that, it creates opportunity. They'll use the us versus them mentality. No one probably gives us a chance to win this game, hence the reason why Geelong are a short quote in the head-to-head betting. But I think Freo will roll their sleeves up and get to work, even though they've got some key personnel potentially not playing. Post-Hawkins era, that's always a question mark, knowing full well that he isn't in the background. He might come back from injury. He's out of the equation, so Shannon Neal gets clean air to make a career of his own destiny, and it starts this year, knowing full well that he could potentially be the partner in crime with Jeremy Cameron and Oliver Henry, who should be the two constants alongside him. Then you've got Stengel, Myers, Close, Dempsey can play there to hit the scoreboard. So they've got talent on every line. The Geelong team, and we know they play that game reasonably well. But Freo, in saying that, the way they set up the ground when they're on song and they're in tune and they're connected, they can also be a very difficult team to score against. They win the ball back. The question with them is when they do go forward, can they punish opposition consistently enough on the scoreboard? So this could be a low-grade game when it comes to scoring. There's rain scheduled on Sunday over here, but probably in the heat of Saturday afternoon, you'd think Geelong will get the job done. I won't be having a bet in this market now that I'm confirmed that those players are not playing Bolton and Walters, because I just thought they had some speed and some class to hit the scoreboard against a Geelong defence that I'm just questioning whether or not they defend strongly with Tom Stewart out of that position and Sam De Koning being used as a ruckman.
Okay, Mick, so we've got Pakenham race number 2 not far away. Just give you an update. McCanty is 350 from 420. Hannah Fabuki goes 140 in from 260. And bit of odds next best, 34 into 11 for Jamie Mott. Now, due to the abandonment of today's Belmont meeting, the following races will be added to next Wednesday's Ascot meeting. 25,000k maiden, 1,200 metres, 25,000k maiden, 1,400 metres, 30k Class 3 handicap, and a 30k Class 5 handicap. Any horses nominated in today's abandoned races will need to be renominated. Nominations for Ascot 19th to the 3rd close at 9:30am tomorrow. So there you have it, punters.
We're chatting to Micky McGuane, courtesy of Dankz Furniture, previewing round 1 of the AFL season, which kicks off tonight. The next game we're going to take a look at is the grand final rematch from last season, the Swans hosting the Lions, who step out for the first time in season 2025. Brisbane go in as favourites and have shortened up a little bit, or trimmed up in the market. $1.75 from the Swans, 2.08. The line at 3.5, Mick, and the total points 177.5.
Yeah, when you look at this game, Riley, I keep coming back to Sydney, why they that bigger odds, considering, one, they've had a game, and two, it's always a bit like the emotional roller coaster of being ready for a game or being in a local derby or a Collingwood-Carlton clash. You spend so much mental energy to prepare, ready to compete or do compete, and quite often, because it's been such a big build-up, it's funny how the human body works sometimes. Some can get to the same levels of competitiveness and the juices flow through the body, but some don't, and they perform accordingly. So will Brisbane be able to get to the level of expectation, knowing well they've had a home game taken from them last week? They've missed 2 to 3 training sessions. They've had to travel to Sydney early in preparation for this game, go and train on a fast track, and then come up a team that's already played a game of footy with good learnings coming out of it. So I'm intrigued to see how Brisbane will go in this first game, and that's why I keep coming back to the Sydney value. Tom McCartan's, I reckon, is a really strong debate, fellas. I know that Dean Cox wants to put his own imprimatur on possible changes and whatnot, But, geez, I thought they looked all at sea at various stages defensively. They only took 6 intercept marks for the game. Sydney Swans are much better than that. And generally when you have the flow-on effect, with McCartan taking the lock, and then you've got 2 or 3 others, it allows Blakey to play that attacking, counter-attack game rather than be last line and being a lockdown. So I'm just intrigued to see how far this lasts. It's a bit like the Harrison Petty experiment as a forward. I didn't like it, publicly stated it, wrote about it, said the same about Noah Bolton. Stop being ridiculous in terms of trying to make a forward out of a defender. They need him to shore up defence. That was last year. Some blokes have got that craft to be adaptable. Some haven't, unfortunately. And sometimes you're trying to make strawberries out of you know what. And I just think in this case, I think you can be creative by half and it can bite you on the backside. And I just hope they revert back to what's their best go-to, and that's to have a really strong defence. We know Sydney teams have historically absorbed pressure, irrespective of how many inside 50s the opposition gain, and they win the ball back, and that slingshot footy, that counter-attack footy, which we know they're so good at, that's how they score.
It's going to be interesting to see how it unfolds, and I think they'll probably persist with it for at least 5 or 6 weeks, Mick, but maybe a conversation to go into in a little more depth down the track. But it is going to be very fascinating to see what that structure looks like once players like McDonald and McLean are made available and healthy as well.
Well, there's talk that McDonald might go back. Now, you probably know Logan's father, Darren, pretty well, and the young boy, when he was growing up, was a midfielder. You can see that in his forward craft. He reads it really well. That's why he gets separation so often. But they're trying to invent the wheel there too, and they might get 2 strikes, 2 crosses against 2 players that they're trying to swing into different positions when it's there in front of them, just to say develop them in the area where they're good at. Just pick and stick and build the team around a bit of predictability.
Really interesting game. Collingwood taking on the Power off the back of a disappointing start to their season, Mick. $1.57 the Pies as favourites. Port Adelaide at $2.40, missing Zach Butters, as we know. The line at 8.5 and the total points 165.5. It's a big game, or a big week, Mick, for those in Magpie Land.
Absolutely. And based on experience, once again, you get your pants pulled down the week before inside those 4 walls, particularly at the Collingwood Footy Club. They do shut down. There's strong messaging about performance. To have 39 tackles last week against GWS, I thought that was the biggest problem in the game for them, because that's what they build their game on. The word pressure comes to mind. But you won't survive AFL footy in today's landscape, the way they spread the ground, make the ground big, if you, at the source, can only apply 39 tackles throughout the game of footy. Collingwood at their best, when you know they're at their best, they've been renowned to get 80 to 85 to 89 to 90. They were miles away with that, and no wonder they look slow when a lot of people make comment. But in saying that, I didn't think the game was that 52-point margin by game's end. To have 20 inside 50s in that second quarter, their first 13 entries in that term, watching it back, they retained possession 3 times. Now, Collingwood were the 3rd best efficient team inside 50 last year. If they continue to bomb just because they've got 3 players now in front of the ball, they'll end up results like they did against GWS, because they can't do it. They shouldn't do it. They had a lack of composure. Reece McManus comes to mind. He gets a handball receiving space in the launch area 70 metres from goal. One-step kick, kicks it off the side of his boot and lands in the lap of a GWS player. That's not good enough. So they have to improve with their entry. Then they'll become more efficient. And if they happen to kick accurately in the early stages of the game, we might have been talking about a different margin. Mightn't have been a win, but the margin would have been closer.
Yeah, 100% agree there. And McGuinness also dropped a really crucial pack mark, which resulted in a goal out the back to GWS. If you're going to go back and become a defender, one thing you can't do, Mick, is drop marks. You cannot do it.
No, we want them to market. I reckon that's the messaging from most coaches. I love defenders that back themselves into market, like Sam Taylor did in the early stages of that game. He made a statement. He said, if you want to come through this area of the ground, guess what? You've got to beat me in the air. We call them mocks for a reason, mark opposition kicks. And if you get that right, it just turns your defence into attack pretty quickly, and you can get teams offside, and that's the reason why you can go back to front to score efficiently. So you've got to enter your inside 50 with a bit of purpose, have a bit of poise and composure, but more importantly, have good decision-making skills, but then the ability to execute the decision you've just made. Collingwood just didn't do that well last week. Their pressure was poor, their entry was poor. I thought the early stage of the game, they set the game up to be on their terms, which they did. More inside 50s, clearance numbers positive, contested ball positive. A lot of their KPIs they would have been pleased with, bar the two mentioned. No pressure, poor tackle rate, and the inside 50 really hurt them, plus conversion.
I'm with you, Mick. I'm expecting a big response from the Pies this weekend.
What did you guys think about the narrative about Cade Corns talking about Nick Dankz the way he did? Did you agree with it, or was it laughable?
I think it's how he sort of went into the fact that he was still in the States when the first to fourth year players were required back. I didn't agree with that commentary because he's already made a name for himself as one of the hardest trainers and best preparers in the competition. There's no doubt about that. But it did surprise me a little bit, Mick, to see him cramping as early as he did, and that is ultimately, it does come down to a preparation and a hydration. How you prepare for a game plays a big part into that, but at the same time, we don't have all the information readily available. We don't know what Nick might have had occur during the week. He might have been sick for a couple of days, or I don't know, his sleep wasn't right, or something along those lines. The things you probably don't consider, but I do think and did agree with Nick Riewoldt in him making the point that for Nick Dankz that would have to be an anomaly. That's not something that you need to be too critical of, but you definitely wouldn't want to see it happen again too early in the season.
I was watching that one-on-one matchup pretty closely because I thought, and I said publicly on radio over here, that Bedford will go to Dankz, and this is foreign territory early in the season for him. So my eyes, as much as I was watching the game, I was watching that one-on-one. I'd love to see the GPS data returns to see what his top-end accelerations were for that first half. I reckon that would have been the most gut-running, at speed, top-end speed, accelerations in the distance his travel would have been off the charts. That'll have the repercussions of getting cramped. That's got nothing to do with preparation because he had to work hard for every possession and sprint from contest to contest probably more than he's ever done because he was clearly checked and his space was denied. You have to work harder. I reckon that had a huge say in it. I'd love to know what the GPS data numbers suggested with his top-end speed and his accelerations in that first half.
Okay, Mick, in this game, you're going for Collingwood to win?
Yeah, reluctantly. It's short. I think there's a big margin between the two teams. I think Collingwood will bounce back, but I'm not confident. Okay,
we move to the second of the fourth of the Saturday games. Western Bulldogs, North Melbourne. Bulldogs 1:33, North Melbourne 3:30. Doubts on Larkey playing for North. We'll be getting those teams very soon.
He's in. Confirmed. Well, he's been named. Nick Larkey at centre half forward.
There you go.
So there you
I
go.
think he's going to be named in the squad, but they're not convinced that he'll get up. If he doesn't get up, I'm not sure where their score is going to come from. If he does play, they're giving him to Saturday. Heard Clarko on a press conference today that he will give him till Saturday. They'll name him for that reason in the squad. But at the moment, he's not in the team. He has to get through Saturday and jump through a couple of hoops to make sure he plays.
Okay, well, that would certainly change a few things there, as I think many people, Mick, and myself included, if he does get up and he is close to 100% fitness, that many are giving North Melbourne potentially a sneaky hope here in their opening game of the season.
And at the odds, you probably would be silly not to have something on them at the head-to-head. I personally think still think the Western Bulldogs will get the job done, even though there's no Bont. Is Treloar and Jones being named in the squad because they were pushing hard to play? That's the mail I got out of the place early in the week.
There is no Adam Treloar at this stage, and Jones being Liam Jones, no Liam Jones for the Dogs at this stage.
And did Richards, Bailey-Dale and West all get up because they had to face fitness tests?
All have been named in that starting 23.
And obviously no Ugle-Hagan. So when you look at the personnel that's not playing, Bontempelli, Treloar, Jones and Ugle-Hagan, it's good to see Richards, Dale and West have got through their fitness tests. And then you look at the North Melbourne team, a lot will depend on Larkey, whether he does get over the line. Let's hope he does for North's sake. Parker Daniel and also Jack Darlington will all play for the Kangas in their first game in the blue and white. And Finn O'Sullivan Good story this. Good young kid out of Coach League last year. He's about to debut. But if you want to have a bet in this one, North head-to-head's probably the value, but I still think the Western Bulldogs will find a way to win. And let's face it, they have to hit the ground running, otherwise the narrative around Luke Beveridge's tenure last year at contract will certainly rise by the days, not by the weeks.
First of the Sunday games, Mick, only the 25 or 6-man squads available to us at the moment. The Crows go in as hot favourites at home. $1.33, St Kilda $3.30, the line at 19.5. And they burnt me last year, Mick, but I'm going again. I do think the Adelaide Crows will make the top 8 myself this season.
I had them in last year too, Riley. I had them in the 8th position. They disappointed me big time. I want to see it first. I know Thilthorpe looks big and strong and imposing. Let's hope he can have a really good year and, really kick 50 to 60 goals and be in the conversation around Coleman medalist. He's got the attributes too. He can average 3 goals a game without doubt. And they need him to actually elevate himself to the number 1 in front of Fogarty and also Taylor Walker if Adelaide are going to get better. St Kilda, they're going into this game with potentially 5 players out of their starting 6 in their forward line, I would have thought. Butler, Max King, Sharman, Liam Henry and Mitch Owens. Owens might get up, but the other 4 apparently won't play. So does that open the door for Max Hall, Harry Boyd, a couple of players to come through and play their first game for the St Kilda Footy Club versus Adelaide, who've had a really strong pre-season, and I'm expecting them to win, and I'll be backing them over the line.
And Draper has been named to make his debut for the Footy Club as well.
Yep, Sid Draper.
Yeah, good player. He's my Rising Star nominee, guys.
He was outstanding, wasn't he?
Yep. Explosive, clean, good decision maker, good ball user. I think he's going to make a real imprint into the Adelaide Crows team right from day one.
At this stage, they've just named Isaac Keeler, Harry Boyd, Hugh Boxall, Max Hall and Liam O'Connell to debut. So he's put all the kids in for St Kilda.
Yeah, Ross is trying to regenerate really quickly. I know they've had a huge turnover in the last couple of years. He's got an extension as well, so they've got faith in the coach to make some good decisions around what they need. They've gone out on the limb. Finn Callahan, the reports were huge there, trying to secure him. They can really struggle to find a big fish and get a big fish, the St Kilda Footy Club, from someone outside their 4 walls. Sometimes if they don't want to come, you just got to rely on your list management team to make sure you've got good talent, and if they're good enough, they'll be played early under Ross's watch, considering the way they're tracking.
Big clash Sunday afternoon, Melbourne taking on the Giants, and big news at the selection table as well. Tom Green named to start inside for GWS in what's been a pretty remarkable recovery from an injury that was slated he was going to miss the first month of the season.
Yeah, well, it was interesting watching him post-game. He had his calf with a bit of a bandage around it, and he was moving quite well. He didn't have a limp that went off the bit of vision I saw. So I anticipated he'd probably be in the conversation to play. So whether he does or not, we will wait and see, but it sounds awfully like it that he will unless it's a late change. No Briggs. Big opportunity here for Max Gawn to dominate and give his midfield teammates in Petrarca, Viney, Oliver, Trent Rivers, these types of boys around the footy, first look at it. And it could give them a proactive mindset to get territory on the back of clearance win. And this is where the challenge for GWS is going to be, to win the ball from those clearances and then try to expose their defensive end, Melbourne's, even though you'd think May and Lever and Petty will play down back alongside others in that part of the ground. They scored so easily last week at times against Collingwood. Really impressive. I can't believe they put up $1.84. I thought they'd be probably a lot shorter than that, so I'm backing them head-to-head in a game. I think they can kick 100 points, and can Melbourne do it to win the game? I've got serious doubts about their forward 50 and how many goals they'll kick in games of footy this year.
Melbourne have named some kids as well, just named at this stage in that squad: Harvey Langford, Xavier Lindsay, Matthew Jefferson, Aidan Johnson, Jack Henderson.
Well, I think the forward line will be about Jefferson and the other lad,
Van Ruin.
The second last name. No, Van Ruin will be in, won't he? He'll be already in the pick.
He's in, yep.
But I think that one other spot will between Jefferson and
Johnson,
the second last name. Johnson.
Yep,
Johnson will be one of those two. I reckon Langford will definitely play. He's got an AFL body already. Very strong competitor. Really strong coach league last year at under 18 level. He's a ready-made senior player, and I reckon they'll go with him. But then it comes down to who's going to kick their goals, I suppose. And if GWS play with the same spirit, intensity, urgency as last week, I love the language out of Kingsley. I don't know what you guys thought, talking about a bit of violence in a controlled manner. And they just assaulted Collingwood. They no time, no space mantra. They certainly lived it. Every time Collingwood's ball carrier got the footy, they had one or two in their face. Their D1 phase of the game was outstanding last week, and that's the reason why Collingwood turned the ball over and they looked slow when chasing them back.
Final game of the round, Gold Coast head in as favourites here in the West. They take on the West Coast Eagles. Gold Coast $1.53, West Coast at $2.50. The line at 10.5. A bit of doubt regarding Jake Waterman taking his place with a tight calf. He has been named at this stage. And Gold Coast are missing a couple of very important players as well. We know West Coast are going to be without Elliot Yeo, but Gold Coast without Mac Andrew and also Sam Flanders for their opening clash.
Yeah, two big outs for the Gold Coast, but gee, West Coast need their best players playing. One in the front half that's such an important player who can hit the scoreboard, and no Oscar Allen. Is that right?
No, he's been named.
He's been named.
He's been named, has he? Okay, so he will take his pace. Okay, that's a bit of a different proposition then. He's such a good player. There's talk that he might be leaving. Is that just fanciful talk over here, or will he stay an Eagle?
Well, it's up in the air at the moment, really. We know discussions have been had with a couple of clubs, being the Lions, as we know, and Hawthorn, and there's some pretty big money on the table, Mick, and as we know, his body certainly hasn't held up for him at times in his AFL career to date, and you wonder whether that perhaps some of the discussion is around how much he can prolong his career before his body eventually gives way.
Yeah, what's his space? Because, gee, I think the Eagles need... I just think he and Waterman can make a really strong duo.
Yep.
Love to see them play a lot of footy together, particularly post Josh Kennedy's career. And then you look at Gold Coast, you talk about trust with them. Can they jump on a plane, travel and win? That's been their biggest challenge over the last 2 or 3 years, more so last year when they were in a position to probably play finals footy, but every time they got on a plane, they failed in terms of performance. Tuke Miller will play. There's talk about that. Who comes in for Mac Andrew? Probably the week off with the cyclone up there in Queensland gave Ballard and Weller a chance to get right for this game. So they should both grace the park against the Eagles. I think the Gold Coast team will win based on who's not playing. I love the way Yo goes about it. He just singles intent around contests. He's got an appetite for the hard footy, and on the back of winning the ball, they get good territory generally. Might not be a lot of creativity. It might be just a bang forward with some depth and penetration, but he should be able to complement the others when he gets back into that team to give him some creative awareness on the outside once he wins an inside ball.
Gold Coast to get the job done in that final game of round number one, Mick, which should be, if we are looking at potentially a multi or a strong play across this weekend, where should we be looking?
I was pretty keen in the middle of the week, Hawks to win head-to-head. Freo with a start and pick your own line on whatever you can get on around the 5-goal mark start. But with the Walters and also the Bolton omission or non-selection, I'm probably going to leave them out now. I just thought they might be capable of narrowing that gap, but would have bolstered your multi. I'm pretty keen that Adelaide will win and win easily, so I could take one over the 19.5, I think you said. And GWS, I'm just going to bank them at $1.84. And if I have a good bet and a head-to-head market, I'll probably take a strong double, Adelaide to win head-to-head into GWS and try to have them going for something more than the $1.84. And if I want to crunch it back, I'll crunch it back to get my money back and just show a profit either way.
Hey, Mick, they're running into the straight here, Ballarat race number 1. How our Ballarat tips look after this race?
How do they look?
Yep.
Pretty tricky meeting there tonight, mate, to be honest with you.
Mm-hmm.
I couldn't really find a moral. If I had a bet early in the meeting, I thought race 2, the Trotter, number 3, or Bravo, would win. They bet up $2.50 around about that this morning. I think it was gone last time I looked. It was into about $2.
$2, yep.
Yeah, I thought it'd be very hard to beat, even though it's slightly up in class. Coconut Mickey, second favourite, doesn't want to win. Gee, just keeps finding something better. If there's a couple of value plays in that race, there's one there at 100 to 1 will outrun its odds, and a Kidos for Jackie Barker. Wallace at $22 will outrun its odds. And even the bottom one, Quirky Character's got some ability at $34. So if those up front El Bravo or Coconut Mickey do something wrong knowing it's a trot race, I might entertain a couple of peanuts on those three horses I mentioned, numbers 9, 10, 11. Race 3 on the program. I thought the value might be here at number 7, Best Back Bruce. It's going better than its figure form, particularly its last start 6, Leilani Justice to drive. Metro Memory, I think it's got the Herbie tax. We talk about the J-Mac tax in the Gallops front. The Herbertson's horses, you watch the models, they just tune in late. Last 2 minutes of betting, whatever Herbertson drives, they just crunch. So I think it's under the odds. I could back numbers 4, 5 and 7 in that race just to try to get the favourite beat. Race 4, tough race. There's 2 hopes, I think, 5 and 7. Won't be having a bet, but put those 2 out in your quaddie. If you're going to have a quaddie. In the second leg of the quaddie, I reckon there's only 3 possible chances. I'll be cheering for 3 because I've backed it at $9. It's into $5. And I reckon also 8 and 9 have got chances. So I think that's a pretty skinny race. Race 6 on the program. I think American Victory can beat... race 6 on the program. American Victory can beat Catherine. The value's number 2. And in the last race, the last leg of the quaddie, number 2 should win, but too short for my liking. Number 6 had 30 starts, hasn't won a race. It's probably second pick. That tells you something about the last race on the program.
Mick, thank you very much for that. Hopefully we can find a winner or two, not only at the Ballarat Trots this evening, but across round number 1. I think we're all very, very happy to have footy back in its entirety. You enjoy the Blues and the Tigers later on tonight, and we'll talk again next week, courtesy of Dankz Furniture.
No worries, fellas. Take care. See you.
Well, we're 11 minutes away from 4 o'clock. We've got a very special guest joining us from the Hawthorn Football Club in Lloyd Meek. Hi, Lloyd.
Hi, gents. How are we?
Good, thanks, Lloyd. Thanks very much for giving us a little bit of your time this evening over there for you in preparation as the build-up to this big game against the Bombers tomorrow night continues. We might take you back to last week. Lloyd, it was a pretty complete performance from the group last Friday night at the SCG against the Swans. As a collective, you must have been rapt, given you were challenged and you responded when the game was on the line in that last quarter.
Yeah, no, we were, mate. We were. I think everyone was pretty stoked because obviously everyone's got high expectations coming into the season. Everyone does a massive pre-season, a big mountain of work. It's all pretty regulated these days, so everyone's coming off a pretty even playing field. So you never really know where you're going to stack up. You obviously hope that you're going to be good, but so does everyone. So, no, I was really happy that we could get over the line. And, I thought that just showed the maturity that we did to be able to come out in the fourth quarter and still be able to produce a win when we were challenged is something that I think 12 months ago or a couple of years ago when we were further down the ladder, we probably wouldn't have been able to. So that mental strength to fight our way into the game because, as we know, Sydney are a good opposition and will be up there all year.
Lloyd, you use that word expectation and the expectation leading into this season placed on the Hawks off the back of how you were able to finish off last year. How has that added expectation coming into season 2025 been addressed or embraced by the group?
It's probably been the most talked about thing media-wise, I reckon, from what I've seen is the expectation on the group and, how are they going to go. But I think I've said it in other forms of media, but I think for us, nothing really changes. Hopefully, we've got some guys, myself included, that everyone love playing on the big stage, and it's cool to be able to do that and have crowds. And we've got some really cool time slots with the schedule this year, which is great. But no, I think in terms of what we're working on and what we focus on week to week, and Sam, obviously Mitchell at the helm, as well as all our assistant coaches, leaders, and right down to all our players and support staff, are really good at just keeping focused and stemming that complacency before it appears, because as they say, complacency never announces itself. So, yeah, we'll keep trying to put one foot in front of the other, and the expectation on us from the outside world can be what it'll be, but, yeah, we'll work on what we can control.
Can we take you back to last year when you get to Hawthorn via Fremantle and Ned Reeves is the number one ruckman, and all of a sudden you get a crack, you get a chance at it, and from there you just held that spot. Can you just tell us the story, how it all evolved?
So I got traded at the end of 2022. So I played 16 games in 2023, and I think all of those bar two of them were with Ned, so we were playing two rucks. And obviously Ned and I both have differing skill sets. So he's elite with his tap work, and he's obviously good aerially. He's massive. He's a big guy. And then I've been able to sort of impact a bit more around at ground level, which has been one of my strengths. So yeah, we were playing together, and then obviously went into that pre-season head-to-head. We're pretty even all summer, and then I think I was VFL for the first couple of rounds of 2024. Got my opportunity in round 3 in the Easter Monday game, which I don't know if you recall was when the game actually got called off from the Lightning show, which was a pretty cool game to be in. Unfortunately, we went down, but from there I sort of I by no means starred early in the year. I was just able to come in and fill the role. And I think as the year progressed, my confidence in myself progressed, but so did confidence from my teammates, just to be able to play the role, and the trust that they sort of built in me, I think, got better and better. And I'm by no means a complete player, mate, and I'll keep striving to be my best and do my best. But it was really nice to be able to get a string of games together and then finish the year strongly in line with the team's momentum. And that was probably, to date, hopefully this one's better, but the most enjoyable year of football I've ever played.
It's been a remarkable ascension, Lloyd. It's been a real pleasure to watch. I think back only a few years ago, watching you monster games over here in the Waffle, and now doing it at AFL level. Last Friday night, a career game for you, or at the very least, very close to it. Can you give us an insight into some of those conversations pre-game, and that we all knew leading in from a height perspective you were going to be a little light on in that front half, and it seemed as though you particularly were doing everything you could to get forward and be a presence aerially in that forward 50 in general play, which at the end result clearly paid dividends?
Yeah, in terms of pushing forward, I think I was lucky enough to get a couple of opportunities, having one 50-metre penalty to put me right in front of the goalhouse. But I think that it's always been an aspect of my game. I've always been pretty middle of the pack in terms of time trials in our summer, and my running ability has always been pretty good, but I've often struggled when I was younger to actually utilise that on game day. And when you are playing one ruck, it is aerobically challenging. So being able to go toe-to-toe with my opponent and back in my running ability is something that I've tried to work on over the years. I try and get back. The backs will hate that question, mate, because I try and get back and support the backs as much as I do the forwards. But luckily to come away with a couple of, to be able to impact the scoreboard's great. But I think I had multiple games last year where I just couldn't quite finish my work, and I was kicking a few points and stuff, and worked on the set shot a bit, which is handy. So, yeah, it's good to add another string to the bow, but I think that the crux of my role is going to be around the ball, and obviously first use to the mids, as well as trying to impact and follow up, and then like you touched on, that aerial presence as well.
So how about this game against Essendon? Have you been up against Draper before? You didn't play against him last year. The year before, did you play against him?
I did. So that was my first game for Hawthorn.
Yep.
Funnily enough, as things come and go in swings and roundabouts, I actually played Nick Bryan and Sammy Draper in a VFL practice match this time last year. So the three of us were all in the VFL, which is pretty funny, because now the three of us will take each other on in the AFL.
Yep.
In the big leagues.
So how do you handle, because he's a bit more of a leaping type ruckman?
Yeah, at centre bounce.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, there's obviously the rule changes have changed a little bit for centre bounce, which has helped me being able to come across the line. I won't give away too many secrets, but a lot of it is to do with obviously the angle that you come in on, and each one's different, and the ball. That's why I'm a fan of the bounce. I'm a traditionalist, is because it's not too predictable where the ball's going to go. You never really know, and so it adds another level of skill. I think that if it was just a throw up, it would really help guys like Drapes, because they'd just be able to. It'd be all purely based on athleticism, and haven't been as gifted by God for my jumping ability, mate. But I've got big quads and big shoulders, so that helps to come across that line.
How have you prepared for them tomorrow night, and what are you expecting them to throw at you? Because in recent seasons, Lloyd, the Bombers have been a bit of a bogey side for the Hawks.
Yeah, correct. And it was funny, I think this is the same with Sydney. I personally, I think I'd played Sydney 3 times. One of those was with Freo, 2 of them were with Hawks, and I reckon the average losing margin was about 65 points. So it was nice to get that monkey off the back last week. Obviously, Essendon, another great team. They seem to every year start the season so well. And I know we've often, I think we always get them in round 1. So, didn't play against them last year, but we know that for them, this is their round 1. So they're going to come with a heap of energy and presence and pressure, I'm sure, and we'll try and match it and bring the same.
Lloyd, I just wanted to ask you about Sam Mitchell as the coach and how he's just really allowed his players and the personalities and the creativity with the players you've got on the list at Hawthorn at the moment to really embrace that in the way they play. How has it been for you developing as a player and learning off him with how he views the game and also wants it to be played?
Yeah, he's a master in terms of his knowledge of the game, and his development as a coach has been awesome. I've obviously only had him for this is my third year under Sam. Knowledge of the game, exceptional, and I think his ability to communicate that to the players and coach each person differently is the next element that he's really taken over the couple of years that I've been under him. I've really been able to watch that come out to shine, and we've got some great personalities in the group, and it's an exciting group to play for, and I think he does a great job at the helm being able to channel that excitement and the energy and let us celebrate the things that we want to celebrate, but you get the right to earn those celebrations through hard work and being diligent to the game plan and obviously holding everyone accountable to standards as well.
How about the injection of Tom Barrass and Josh Battle into this team for this year?
Yeah, they're pretty handy, aren't they? They're great players and they're outstanding people. I think that's been the most pleasing thing is how much you can just see from week one, them coming in the door, how much they were going to help our culture. Obviously, the on-field performance, they'll speak for themselves. But, I know from inside the four walls, they're incredible people, and both them and their families to be able to come into our club and have such a big impact on each of them, on all of us, has been really impressive.
Hey, Lloyd, just one more from me because we do know it is late over there and we are going to let you go. But James Sicily, not only the player and the weapon he is at both ends of the ground, but also the leader that he is at the club. I thought he was just huge last Friday night. He just seems a player who can really lead through his actions. We know he can get a bit fiery. He's clearly very passionate the way he goes about his football. He must just make you blokes walk taller when he's up and about as he was last week.
Yeah, without a doubt. There's no one I'd rather play under. He's an exceptional leader, and like you said, he leads by example so well when we're on the field, and a bit of a double-edged sword that he can play at both ends. I think that there'll be some nervous defenders having to play on him, but also some nervous forwards having to be played on by him. He's an incredible leader, and I couldn't speak more highly of Jim. He's doing a great job so far. Lord,
just one more for me, then we will wrap it up. The loss of Warple, I'd watched him so closely during the pre-season and into that first game. He has been one player up and about. Josh Ward gets his chance now, but you're going to miss him.
Yeah, without a doubt. Warps has had an unreal summer, and he's probably our strongest mid across all the pre-season games that we played in. And he obviously had a good first half against Sydney as well. And he's so consistent and so reliable. I think you just always know what you're going to get with Warps. And the midfield group that we've got, I love playing with. And he's one of the guys that on and off the field I've really gelled with well. And he's an outstanding player. And I actually had a similar-ish sort of ankle injury last year, which kept me out for a couple of weeks. So hopefully he'll be able to bounce back reasonably quickly. But as you mentioned, Wardy gets his chance, and we get to come in, and Wardy's an elite player, and that's a great sign for a club when you can have depth of another player to be able to come in, and you're so confident of them to come in and do that job. So I'm looking forward to seeing what we can do.
Lloyd, we love your work. Riley and I have watched you very closely over the last couple of years, and last year's performance was fantastic. Continued success this year for the Hawks and yourself.
Thanks, Lloyd.
Thanks, heaps, guys. Thanks for having me on.
There he goes, Lloyd Meek from the Hawthorn Footy Club. And you and I, as we know, we've marvelled at some of his ruck work throughout the year.
And as he said, he's been working very hard behind the scenes on not only his running power and using that more efficiently, but also his work at ground level. And he just offers him a different dynamic to what a lot of other rucks in the comp don't have. And that's being able to really be a presence and impact once that ball hits the deck as well. I thought his performance last Friday night went a long way to Hawthorn being able to come away from that game against Sydney on top.
Just on that, let's have a comment. Grundy in that first half, he almost seemed, I won't say disinterested.
I would say reactive.
Reactive, yeah.
I would say he was very reactive.
He got going in that second half. That'd be a fair comment, wouldn't it?
And I think...
Was it the rain that helped Grundy, slower conditions?
Potentially, but I think we're seeing now more and more with the way the game's played, just the body language of players when things aren't going their way. And there are a lot of players out there, and I've played footy with a lot of players over the years, Marty as well, that are real confidence-based. And when that confidence is high, they are dominating games. They're impacting consistently through 4 quarters. But you can just see players when that confidence isn't where it should be and those doubts start to creep in, the body language completely changes. And Grundy's body language in that first half, just the way he was conducting himself when he was getting beaten around the footy, you could just see those doubts had crept in because he had gone into that game under a bit of an injury cloud. Yep. He had a bit of an injury interrupted pre-season. He spent some time back in Melbourne, I believe, as well, in the lead into Sydney's first game. I wouldn't be writing him off just yet off the back of that poor performance last Friday night, but you could just see that his confidence and the belief in his own ability wasn't where it needed to be last Friday night.
Comes up against the Big Mac this week as well. And the other one in that boat too was Papley. You could tell he was underdone coming into it and should improve off that run.
Wasn't moving. It wasn't moving like he usually does when he's at his top.
I think he picked a little ankle up throughout the game. Pakenham race number 3, 15.985. Storm Season. Bo Mertens descended to catch the favourite. 10.33.10. Comanche miss $1.04. Swansers 3.10. Scintillate 4th. 10.40 Quinella exacta $30 even. Trifecta 193 even. First 4 15.985. 567.93 and 15, the double 19.10, 7, 11, 12, 16 were out. Pakenham race 4 to go in 10's our next. It is over the 1,200 metres. A 4-year-old Nup Maiden. 1 Ben Riarcus $8. 3 Cudmore Street 61. 4 Flying Mean 235. 5 Jakive is 480. 8 Stone Age Romeo 950. 9 Two Faults 71. 10 Grouse Mountain 330. 11 Last Say 61, 12 One Special Girl 41, 13 Senechka 41, and 15 Shantino 126.
One off the text line, Mart, from the great Greg L. Lloyd Meek, the one that got away in my eyes, being an Eagles supporter. It still hurts me. The Eagles were crying out for a ruck to replace Nick Nat and could have had a real crack at getting him, but didn't. And 3 years later, we still don't have a decent ruck. Go figure.
21.8 degrees here in Perth. If you're wondering what's happened to Perth Racing, Belmont races today abandoned due to the weather, and we just gave you the announcement 4 races will be scheduled on to Wednesday's meeting coming up, Wednesday's midweek meeting. They are the Maiden 1200, the Maiden 1400, the Class 3 Handicap 1400 and the Class 5 Handicap have all been added to Wednesday's Ascot meeting. Now, importantly, horses nominated in today's abandoned races will need to re-nominate. Nominations for Ascot 19th to the 3rd close at 9:30am tomorrow. 4:05, McGinnity's next.
The Perth Racing Preview is where the Straight Up team finds you the winners, and here's the Straight Up team with their preview of Saturday racing from Ascot.
McGinnity.
Mart.
How are you?
Good.
Yeah, looking well.
Hello, Riley.
Hello, Brad.
A1 Engineering, Sheila Gwynne Classic. I know it's one of your favourite races. You're
sure
pumped
is.
up for it?
Always.
Yeah. 1,400 metres of the best.
Time honoured.
Yep. And that'll be running at about 4:46 with the favourite Bon Joy. I thought she was having a break. No, this was always the plan?
I don't think it was always the plan, but sometimes, Mart, plan A doesn't work, so you have to go and take a look at plans B, C, or even D sometimes, but have trust, I think, in Skinny Miller. He's done it before, this preparation already, so I don't think you can be too critical of that little setback and a little bit more of a gap between runs and what is probably what we're accustomed to.
Sometimes money talks as well. So the rail position is in the true good 4, and I think it's going to be a cracking like 28, isn't it? Nice day for a powder blue jacket. Yeah, mostly sunny.
Oh, you on course, Mark? You on course?
I'll be incommunicado, mate. You won't be finding
the
me.
Legions will be there waiting to see you.
Don't reveal.
Whereabouts might you be milling around, Mark?
Stop it.
Whereabouts might you be?
Up the top.
Cool.
That's as high a point as you can get at Ascot Racecourse.
Yeah, should be a good day, though. Looking forward to it.
Well, I'll send you a text from downstairs and I won't get a reply till after the last saying, sorry, mate, I've left.
Yeah, gone out the back door. So what about the meeting, Alyssa?
My message failed to send.
Just before we get out, don't forget Narrogin Cup 2 on Saturday.
Indeed.
And then we've got the Bluff Knoll on Sunday. So other markets we need to cover.
Indeed. Both markets up already and a bit of activity too, which is great to see.
Wow, there we go. I didn't realise that the Bluff market was up. So
Shannon.
As we
get
our ducks in a line, might go take a little sneaky.
Wrote them in favourite.
Yeah, 280.
We've got Paul Hunter on too between 5 and 6. He can tell us how his charge is going for it.
There's a meerkat. There's a couple of meerkats in that market already.
Oh, hang on, he's been caught.
Jeepers.
I like to be pre-warned about my meerkats.
Drummond Golf Handicap is the first. It's over the 1,200 metres. We're running on a good 4. Should be perfect out there on Saturday. And nice drink of rain. The Savo too wouldn't have hurt the track. One Elite Missile, off the top, 11 into 750. Smooth Mover, they went up $2. It's into $1.75. KTY Impressive, 260. Courts Records, 31. Jackpot Bingo is 16. Likes to chant, 81. And Salty Miss, 26.
Good betting race early, Mark, for a small field. The early local pro money, 1,500 at the 240 KTY. Eastern States Pros lining up for Schmoove Mover, 2,500 at the $1.85, or 1,500 at starting price. A couple of $1,000 bets there at the 2 and the $1.80. Plenty of 2 and 300s there. Schmoove Mover. Local pro money Elite Missile at the $11 each way there, and more money Elite Missile, a bit of 400 each way activity. So.
Maybe our friend Duppy's getting involved. I know he's pretty in with that camp, the SJ Miller camp, in a bit of form at the moment. So he's got a bit to play with, I think, our friend, the Dupster. But a great start to the day, Brad.
Might use his $100 voucher on it.
Yes. Smart. Smart. Sharp. The sharp money.
I see he's left Bellini miss in the Sheila Gwynne as well. Quantum Step. So after Duppy got some of that... what was it, 20s last week?
$26, I think.
Oh, we shocked
someone tipped Bellini miss on this program,
Don't know
I think, last
who
week.
It was. Got no idea who that was. And the great man found the winner of the sprint.
No one pushing buttons today. She's getting a coffee again, Mark.
Yeah, I don't know where she is. Knocked off.
Yeah.
Storm Boy.
Don't blame her.
Oh, there she is.
Yeah, that was deserved. That was very well deserved. But no, really good race to kick off the day. Only a small field. Tantalising clash here, Bradley. Schmoove Mover, KTY. Schmoove Mover we'll start with, has been well supported early. Got the job done in perhaps maybe a little less than convincing fashion last start, but it was his first time at 1,400. He did a little bit wrong. He copped a couple of big checks very late in the piece, but was able to stick his neck out at the right time. The challenge is he's now mid-prep, back to 1,200, rises pretty significantly in weight from a barrier that I thought could become somewhat problematic if he wasn't to lead here, Brad, but I just think with the lack of speed in this race that it might be the way Chris Parnham goes about it in finding the fence with him from that inside draw and leading them up. Maybe a slight concern for me on what was expected of him was the fact that he maybe regressed a fraction when he was trending like he was looking for 1,400 metres with his run last start. It took him the length of the straight to really wind up and get past Gigi Pops, who didn't exactly set the world on fire with her run subsequently. I think the second horse through that race, Secret Attraction's a quality Saturday mare, but gee, I thought KTY was impressive the way he won first up.
Couldn't agree more. And agree with you about the speed map concerns too. Schmoove Mover maybe does get straight to the front. Does this mean KTY needs to maybe do something a bit upside down and have a look at the breeze, or who knows how that could transpire early. Will be very interesting to watch. There's a few others, probably not in relation to this race, but going forward that are worth having a good look at. Court's Record, that was a nice trial for those having a sneaky look. Salty Miss also has plenty of ability. And Elite Missile, when it gets probably looking for a bit longer, but when it does, they don't try much better.
All right, so Pakenham race number 4. You want to wrap this one up on the first?
Yeah, I thought the gap in the market a bit big for mine. I thought KTY won like a really nice 3-year-old first up, and if Schmoove Mover was to end up leaders back and running, I thought this looked a nice scenario for Pike to just wind up into the race at his own leisure, sitting off them with a horse that has a black-type turn of foot for mine moving forward, potentially, if he keeps progressing the way he looks like he's going to. So KTY on top for me, Marty. Okay. I'm taking on the sure price favourite in the opener.
Thank you, David. Looking forward to catching up with you in here soon. 4, 8, 10, 3 numbers. Pakenham, Flying Mean, Ben Mallam, $2 $1.10. Stone Age Romeo, $2.60. Grouse Mountain at $1.60. Cudmore Street was 4th. 11, 10 Quinella, $16 exacta. 45, 20 trifecta. First 4, 4, 8, 10, 3, 1,035.60. 15 and 4, the double, 27.60. The quaddie 3, 3, 15 and 4, $120.30. 2, 6, 7 and 14 out. Pakenham race 5. We've got a benchmark 70 over the 1,200. Rubology is $12. A Super Nima $4.40. 3 is Dakari $9.50. 4 Proved $1.85, and 5 Dual Venture is $4. You are listening to Straight Up, our preview of Ascot racing on Saturday. McGinnity, Riley, and myself, and we're moving on to race number 2, which is the Tab Touch Westmead Platinum Handicap over the 1,200 metres. And let's have a look at the betting here with number 1, Flick the Switch, $6.50 firm. 2, Famous Journey, 18 into 13. 3, Grand Reserve is 13. Hymns of Aladare, $1.95 to $1.90. Invincible Ruby, 20. Number 6, Boat Talk is 13 to 10 after opening at 9. Chop Suey, $5.50, 8. Brazen Empress, 14 out to 18. And number 9, Star Power, has been $26, spec'd into 14.
Long-range meerkat, Martin. Hymns of Elodie, $1,750 at the $1.95. Flick the Switch, $300 there at $6.50. Chop Suey, $300 at the $8. Eastern States Sharpies are snipping away at Famous Journey and Star Power. Rolls?
Yeah, I thought Hymns of Aladare looked the best bet on the program, doing the form for this race. Smart, but was hoping for
shorter now.
Yeah, that's the obvious sticking point. I thought there might be a bit more meat on the bone, but Bradley clearly of the belief as well that this bloke does look very hard to beat. Back into a Westmead Platinum, which isn't the deepest of Westmead contests you will find either at his third run back for the prep. I thought the return win at Bunbury was super. Last start closed off really well late in Graduation Company behind Hang Glider. I think that's form that could really hold up on this program on the weekend. As well, as mentioned, drops in grade, drawn beautifully. Pike jumps on board, just ticks a lot of boxes here. This horse, I do think he looks very hard to beat, but he's no value at that current price. At the moment, from a value point of view, Bo Talk probably wasn't too inferior a run to Hymns of Aladare through that same race. First up, if Matty Derrick could kick through to lead with him here, I could certainly see him running a really good race at the double figures and a generous each-way price as well. But he's been a very tricky horse to catch over the journey and does just find ways to get himself beat or not give himself the best opportunity to run his best race. And Barrier 1 could prove a little problematic all the same. And good to see Flick the Switch in town, who's been dominating the Great Southern Circuit. I love how she travels into and puts them away, or has been putting them away in her races down there. But they bring her to town and they test her over 1,200 metres, which she's yet to see in her career. I would have perhaps preferred to have seen her come to town and contest a race over the 1,000 or the 1,100 metres, where she has been really belting them down there in the Great Southern.
Yeah, inclined to agree. There's the fave looks the obvious, doesn't it? Because there's a few queries on those others in the market. Flick the Switch, 1,200. Bit of a query there. Chop Suey seems to go a bit better down the straight rolls than it does around a corner. And Grand Reserve's a bit of a grindy type, surely looking for longer. Botork's the one you could make a case for, but as you said, Riley needs things to go its way, needs the right sort of run, needs to get out and moving. So the more I look at the market, the more I think maybe Im's Velity could even start shorter.
That's very well placed.
Yep. Race number 3, the Glenroy Chaff Plate. It's over 1,000 metres for the 2-year-olds. Start time 1:39. And one split the G. Last start winner, 550 into 420. King's Court, 557. 3 My Riches, 23 to 31. 4 Exceed the Boom, 850 to 650. 5 Delta Sun, 34. 6 Never Specified, 31. 7 Hey True Blue, 19. 8 Mr. Kissinger, 17. 9 Golden Opera, 14. Beautifully Brad is number 10 at 26. 11 Desert Life, 5 440. 12 God's Rapture, 16. 13 My Testimony, 51 to 31. 14 Spicy Thang, $18.
It's brutally Brad. Not beautifully Brad, but that's
brutally.
Paging Dr. Freud. There might be a bit of subconscious activity going on there, Martin. I get it. Split the G, 600 at 480, 600 at 440, 600 at 440, 600 at 420, 500 at 550 early. Wow. Exceed the Boom at 500 at $7. Spicy Thang, I think that's how you pronounce that. A couple of $200 bets there at the $16, and a bit of money there for God's Rapture too, a couple of $111. This is a salivating race, Rolls.
Yeah, good luck. That's all I'll say. This is tough. Gee, you'd think Brad split the G. Omen bet of the century on St. Paddy's Day.
Yeah, that was very good work by Latho on the
yes,
on the X.
Omen bet of the century. There will be plenty on course trying to split the G on the weekend. One very impressively on debut, this horse, albeit still a little bit green, draws the coveted fence here in Barrier 1, and I thought could hold up in a really positive position for Jade McNaught. Very respecting of her performance on debut. Exceed the Boom, looked the goods at the trials, wide throughout, 4th on debut behind Yes Queen and Talk & Co. Many suggesting that's the strongest 2-year-old race we've seen to date.
Gotcha.
Should get a... Mart's clearly got someone down the line. Should get a... Exceed the Boom, should get a gun run from the draw as well. Brad, he's shown some really good tactical speed in his trials as well, and you could make a case for a number of these given the manner in which they've jumped out. King's Court, brutally Brad, jumped out really well. Desert Life and God's Rapture also looked the goods at the trials as well.
Right, we're wrapping up.
Yes, we are. Wrapping up race number 3 for the 2-year-olds. I didn't have a really strong opinion here, Brad. I did really like the jump out of Brutally Brad, funnily enough. I do think the barrier looks a bit tricky for her on debut, but gee, I thought she went good in that 400-metre jump out. Looks like there might be some ability there for one at longer odds, but yeah, tricky race.
Isn't it? I'm excited to see it. It's so many unraced who have trolled nicely versus a few handy-looking raced types, so... they're starting to warm up for the Karrakatta, so it's fair to suggest the stables have a bit of an opinion about the ones they're unveiling now. So the market's starting to spit out a few rolls. And one of those ones that I'm looking at is Wolfie's horse, Hey True Blue. They are a pretty decent fan of those trials. Noted that it hasn't been nommed for the Karrakatta, but neither is Pure Silver. Fury Spark. So... it was pretty impressive on Saturday. It wasn't nommed either.
It was.
So God's Rapture, another one for your Novs, 2 very nice trials. But $23, Hey True Blue, that'll get me.
Okay.
There you go.
Spec bet there.
Blue.
MCA Polytrack Handicappers, race number 4 over the 1,000 metres. Capray Omnia is $9.50. Pin Deep, 10, 12, 10. 2 Darty, $3.80 to $2.90. Sinful Living, 9, 11, 10. Zing to Wing, $4.60 out to 7. Number 6, Keep It a Mystery, 7 to $4.80. 7, Shooting Spirit, $5. 8, Golden Fighter. Spec'd in a big odds is Bradley, 71 to 34. And 9, If I Didn't Have a Dime, is 61.
And a nice little spread of money, Mart. $2 Too Darty early. They're quite keen. 700 at the 380. Another 500 at the 380, 500 at the 340, 500 at the 330. Plenty of $200 bets at the 330 and 320. Zing to win 500 at the 550. Keep it a mystery, a couple of 500s there at the $6 and 550. That is Eastern States Pro Money. ESP, Mark.
Few ESPs getting involved here in race number 4. I'm pretty keen, seemingly so are many, with the movements in this market. Too Darty resumes here, first up, no trial, and he's just a pretty bomb-proof horse, fresh. I've always really liked him. He was a dominant winner first up last campaign. He really spanked Miss Flirtatious over the concluding stages there. Preparation prior to that, very unlucky when a close-up second behind Burberry and Comic Hero in that finish on a heavy track at Belmont Park. They stretched him out a little bit last preparation, Brad, and he certainly, I didn't think anyway, was as dynamic or as effective when they did stretch him out to the 7 furlongs. I think the 1,000 to the 1,200 metres is where he's done his best work in his career to date. There looks to be really strong speed engaged here. I thought Sean O'Donnell should be able to just park midfield at worst with a bit of cover and work into the race at the right time. So I was pretty keen on Too Darty. Wouldn't mind a bit more, something $3 plus here. Isn't far off it at the moment at $2.90, but I did think it looked a really nice race for him to resume. Very respecting of Keep It a Mystery, who gets Chris Parnham on for The Apprentice, gets some weight off his back, and he's really well placed here out of 3-year-old exclusive racing, where he's been more than holding his own in strong races. And Shooting Spirit has really turned a corner for Simon Miller as well. This is certainly a lot deeper than the race he put away midweek, but he's got a really nice turn of foot and could be dangerous late with a cuddled up run from that inside draw under Lucy Fiore.
Yeah, I agree. It looks a decent enough tempo. The Too Darty, I haven't liked a lot of its runs over longer and later in the prep. I just think it copped a lot of bad setups, a lot of races that just did not pan out for it. It's obviously going well to be straight into this race first up, so I just had it a little bit bigger, so I'm not going to get the price I want there. But a few others at the market spitting out now that you could entertain. Horses like a Shooting Spirit or a Zing to Win, both look like they're going to put in a very nice performance on Saturday, so there are a few that I'll be possibly looking at if Too Darty stays this short.
It's nice trial, Zing to Win. Fair horseflesh in behind him as well. Joker's Grin Ginnivan. Clearly feeling himself as well with the manner in which he skipped 8 to 10 lengths clear of the field at one stage. So they've got him humming, the Pierce boys.
100%.
About the toppy, Capri Omnia.
It's holding great form.
Is it ever?
Consistent as they come.
Going super.
Do we wait for the money? They seem to back it when it wins.
I just thought perhaps this was maybe a bit of a trickier setup to that race. He found last start, and when he did win down the straight the start prior, and I think it's important to note that his 2 wins this campaign have been down the straight at Pinjarra Mart.
Okay. All right, let's go to
this. He does his best work
in town.
Yeah, yes.
Yep. Race number 5 is the Hugh Jamieson Trophy. It's over the 1,200 metres. Start time is 2:59. Let's have a look at the board here. Charlton Eddie, $31. Silver Eye, 650, 550. 3 Speed Dream is 21. 4 is Brave Strike, $4 into 3. 5 Cessation, 330 to 290. 6 Corn Cob is 21. 7 Hang Glider, $5. And 8 Supportive, $12.
Mart, Brave Strike, the local pros, pretty keen early. A couple of $700 bets there at the $4. Another $800 at the $370, which was Eastern States Pro money. A couple of Eastern States Pros also keen Silver Eye there. A couple of $300 bets at the $6. And then they stepped into Cessation. A couple of $1,000 bets there at the $330 and the $320. They are the 3 leading to Hang Glider being spat out a little bit in the market, Ross.
Yeah, interesting. I seem to think it might go the other way. It was some win last start with the run he had, Hang Glider. This certainly isn't the strongest of 72-plus fields that you'll find. Drops a couple of 2.5 kilos off his back, and should, you'd think, find a handy enough spot in running here once again. Very respectful of him, and that win, was big. Big last start.
And second up.
100%. And Yeah, I really struggled with this one, Brad. I thought this was very tricky. I could see Silver Eye really jumping out of the ground, second up to 1,200 metres. Never a happy horse fresh over the 1,000 in a race that wasn't run to suit. But I am a bit of a concern with the interrupted prep. The trial was super, but was 6 weeks from that trial into that first up run. So there's a bit of a concern that he has had an interrupted preparation this time in. Cessation's on the back up after being grabbed in the shadows at Bunbury by Marty Young over 1,200 metres last weekend. Maps for an easy lead here, only has 53 kilos after Luke Campbell's claim. I think this is a really nice placement for it, and could have a few handy roadblocks up there around the speed with her too, to give her a nice little buffer on some key rivals like Corn Cob and Charlton Eddie, no disrespect, horses that are likely to settle up there on speed as well, who are going to get better as they build into their preparations. And then, Brad, you have Brave Strike out of the Marjorie. Charleston Fresh gets Pike back on and perhaps just wasn't suited to leading on that occasion.
Yeah, the money's come, but just looks a bit of a sticky type setup for mine. And for me, the way the market's going, I think Hang Glider's an easy enough bet for me to have. Always hate, they got the win on the board and you missed the price, but the price was certainly there, and now you've got to take $5 or $6, but still, it seems enough with this sort of setup.
He just hasn't been a horse. He's always had that ability, hasn't he? But he's just never been a horse that's been able to string a few together. I've always found him a very hard horse to catch, Hang Glider. But, very, very big on his win last start. And at the moment, Marty, he would be the value in the market as it stands.
He's still 3 from 26, isn't he? Right, okay.
Are you suggesting that's a good strike rate?
No.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying. I'm agreeing with you.
Leave me out of race number 5.
Okay, we go to race 6, the Ballast Racing Joiner Racing Syndicate Handicap over the 2,100 metres. And this race is due to go at 3:37. By the way, football scores 1 point all after, there's 16 minutes remaining in the first quarter. 1 Queen of Jerusalem is 16, 2 Covert Rose 290 to 265, Royal Law 11 to 10, Savorsky 6 to 7, 5 Warley Lass is 6 out to 750, 6 Holdout 850 to 12, 7 Royal Splendour is 15 into 11, 8 Taranaki 13, 9 Al Nord is 71, 10 Gold Friars 14 into 11, 11 Il Giro del Mondo's 31.26, and Lord Randolph 51.31.
A lot of those little trim-ups and markets merging, Mart.
MMs.
Covert Rose, local pro money LPM, 1,100 at the 280. Taranaki, 400 wins at the $12. Oh, champion, you can go again. Bit of each way support, Royal Law there at the $11. That's about it. It's a pretty mild betting race, Ross.
Yeah, tricky staying contests, Bradley. I thought Covert Rose looked the obvious. If she can handle the step up in trip, she looks like she's got a bit more, I use the word class with a bit of hesitance, but she does look the classiest runner in this field, and that the way she's been racing and the way she's been able to string a few wins together last preparation too in stronger company than this, albeit over a lesser distance. I thought she was really good on return at Bunbury. Clear run of the race last start, came from the tail in a race that was dominated from those that settled close to the speed. Was just unable to pick up here for checks over the concluding stages. Finds are relatively not the strongest of staying contests, and I think her quality will take her a long way, especially with that man in the saddle, with the way he's returned to riding at the moment. The value for me is Taranaki, who comes through what was a pretty genuinely run 2,200 metre contest at his second run here in WA for Luke Fernie. He went 15.70 at Belmont first up, straight up to the 22 second up, and really liked his run first up here in WA. Had to do a bit of work to get across in a fast run race last start, and then perhaps just didn't find the right part of the track when held up at a vital stage as they were starting to make their runs as well, with Jade having to go back to the inside. So third up, with a bit of added fitness with that run under the belt at the staying trip, I thought Taranaki posed a little bit of value in a very open race.
Yeah, with the current prices, not much grabbing me. I could spec Goldfriars each way. Looks nice enough setup for it. I'd probably rather have an each way bet on it than play any other horses that are a bit shorter in the market. So that might be one that gets me Goldfriars each way, but not overly perturbed about having a wager in this race, Mark.
Let's get into this preview again, and we are now up to race number 7. The Peters Investments Handicap over the 1,400 metres, start time at 4:11. And one of your favourites, Count the Szechuan, 10 out to 15, 2 Siberian Siren, 440 to 5, 3 Knots Secret, 19 to 17, 4 Our Mate Archie, 380, 350, 5 Strike Now's 26, 6 Trio, 480 to 550, 7 Our Rocky Bay 9, 950, into 650, 8 Rocket Juice, $11, 9 Golden Kathleen, 950 to 750, and 10 Mr. Raffles, $20.
Trio March, 1,750 at the 550 if you don't mind. Local pros don't mind Our Mate Archie early, a couple of $750 bets at the $3.80. Golden Kathleen, 400 at the 750. Our Rocky Bay, ESP Smart, 300 at the 8, 300 really? At the 8, and 300 Golden Kathleen at the 9. And a bit more local sharp money, Our Rocky Bay at the 850, around that mark with the $300 there. Ross.
Yeah, tricky race, Brad. Numerous winning chances for mine. Our Mate Archie, favourite, really knocking on the door. Second behind Memory Parade, second behind Fluoro Neuro. Last start dropped back to 1,200, drew wide. Got a long way back in a muddlingly run race, and I don't think could have run any better with the run he had, the way that he finished off on that occasion. He's back up to 1,400 metres. I think he can land in the box seat on the back of the leader from Barrier 1, and if Jared Noski can get him working into the race when he needs to without being pocketed back to that inside, I think it looks a really good race for him to finally put what would be, I know some people don't like the terminology, but it would be a deserving Saturday win on the board with how he's been going. Siberian Siren could cross and lead here back in grade, was only grabbed late last start by Watch Me Rock and Angel Undercover, and as we know, that's really good form for a race of this nature. The 1,400 perhaps the only slight concern, and the big rise in weight. I thought that perhaps she could be slightly vulnerable late. As a result, Trio, another huge chance as well if Pike can allow him that 3-deep cover, flowing run into the race. Never saw daylight last start at Pinjarra when he looked to be bolting, and that's proven to be a hot little form race as well. And Count the Sessions, always a chance in this grade as well, Brad.
Can I just chime in here? Siberian Siren last start drew wide, and I thought they'd go back, and it was out in front on a day when you couldn't lead and win, could you? That was a pattern that day. I was a bit surprised. Would he go back this time or go forward from 10?
I thought they'd go forward.
Again.
I don't think there's a...
I reckon they'll come out with an open mind. Let's put it that way. They'll be happy to see how things...
I'd love to see her back and let her... She's got a rocketing finish.
She's flying. That first up run was...
And she's a grunt out of a Londro mare. If she's ridden right, she'll get the 1,400.
Another one like Our Mate Archie, who is absolutely knocking on the door, Siberian Siren. So, yeah, it's a tough race for me. I think Trio is also probably going better than maybe the form sort of suggests. Is almost pretty much right there, ready to win 1 and 2, Trio. So, a race that I'll be staying out of at the current prices, but there'll certainly be some decent form coming out of it, I think.
Yes, agree. And one down the bottom of the page, Marty, Mr. Raffles.
Yeah, won well.
Only won a maiden last start, but gee, he's got a bit of ability, a bit of greenness, and a bit of X factor, this horse.
Named after Mart when he used to live in the South Perth region.
Oh, geez, it was an iconic hotel once. Not secret, my old mate Scotty just can't sort of get this horse to win anymore.
Just seems a bit out of form.
Yeah.
Not secret.
Just a touch. Grindy.
Yeah.
Needs a lot to go right.
And what about Rocket Juice, the Bondi?
Going well.
Yes, well, actually, you know what? I had factored in that we likely wouldn't be seeing him on Saturday because he was down to race today. So that has obviously, with today's abandonment, you're likely to see him in this race on the weekend, I think. Can certainly run very, very well.
Okay. Done and dusted. We go to the A1 Engineering Sheila Gwynne Classic. It's over the 1,400 metres. And the start time here is 4:46. We look at the board, and one is Bonjoy. She's $2.90, $3, $2.90. Generosity, $3.60, $4.20. And then they said that's enough, $3.40. Yarrowlay, $51.41. Zafira is $31.26. Bellini Miss, $21. Angel Undercover is $11. Wango Award, $18.26. Spectre, $23. Secret Attraction is $3.80. Memory Parades, $14.13. And Selfless Act, $41.
Bit of LPM early, Mart, for Bonjoy, 1,000 at the $3. Also, Secret Attraction, 700 there at the 380. And then, as Generosity continued to sort of drift out, the Eastern States Pros went, that will do us, thank you, champion. We will be stepping in. And 3 or 4 of them have, 800 at the 360, 700 at the 4, 700 at the 390, another 400 there at the 4. So, yeah, Generosity, they have stepped in. So, this market, these 3 are really dominating, and they're sort of shoring up the bulk of the money.
Tricky little speed map in this one, Bradley, I thought, in terms of how this race might be run.
Yes, indeed. Do you think Secret Attraction will hold up?
I thought they'd lead with... yes, I found this really tricky. I think Pike would ideally like something to follow, or some cover, a leader's back sort of run for this horse. I could certainly see a scenario where she does lead. Zafira, Wango Award, potentially. Wango Award, Holly Watson going on board. We've seen her ridden positively in the past. I thought maybe they might look to ride her a bit more aggressively this time around from that wide draw, given the lack of speed in the race. Selfless Act could go forward as well. But yeah, tricky little speed map. Bonjoy, as we mentioned before the preview begun, gets here off the 6 weeks, which probably offsets the mile back to the 1,400 metres somewhat. But she's, as we know, Mart, she's just a winner. She's already proven herself off a minor setback with her win off 5 weeks in the Australia Day Trophy, which was off the back of her winning the start prior to that. She's just she's a beauty. You'd suggest Railway Stakes bound if they can keep her sound a bit later on in the year. 11 wins from 18 starts, 7 wins from 10 starts at Ascot. She's the clear class, the clear best horse in the race for me. And I think the fact that you're getting near $3 or around that $3 mark's a bet. I'm happy to go again, even off the setback. And that's the way I've seen this race. I've got a lot of respect for the mares coming out of the Marjorie Charleston, Generosity and Angel Undercover. Secret Attraction, I think, will be winning races in Saturday Company, no doubt about that. But, yeah, $3 Bonjoy, that'll get me.
Looks very well placed at the weights, isn't she, Bonjoy?
What I'm going to go for is Secret Attraction.
Yeah, I know. I can get it. Big run first up.
Yeah, I think you look at the Stewards Vision, you can make a pretty strong case that just clear air from the top of the straight because it sort of drifted in behind, and then things got squeezy and bumpy, and yeah, you can make a pretty strong case it should have won that race, and will only improve and just look I know Riley just said Saturday class. I think this horse might have a bit more in store than that now with Peter Fernie, who's done a wonderful job with her.
And that price might... Interesting one, this one, because obviously Bonjoy is going to warrant a lot of support with her profile, Brad. But say, for example, we saw Schmoove Mover come out and blow them away in race number 1. Mm-hmm. You could understand off the back of that, there's likely to be a lot of support for this mare at her second run for the prep.
Will be interesting. We already know the ESPs have lined up for Generosity, so we know they will more than likely come again late. So, yeah, a lot to unfold.
Can Memory Parade sneak a place?
Definitely. Wouldn't surprise me at all if she ran on into a placing. Angel Undercover's going super. But yeah, Generosity's an interesting one because it's just been the story of her career, hasn't it, Brad? Last start, get back, rattle home, close but not close enough. And I think she may encounter a little bit of traffic from that inside draw here with her racing pattern on the weekend, and straight up to 1,400 second up as well.
At least looks like she might get that slow tempo where they can bunch and she can tag right up to them and get some chance to unleash.
Okay, just before we look at the last race, Carlton getting away a bit here, 4-4-28, and they are leading Richmond 1 point. The Kit Logistics 100 Club Networking Event, 20th of March 2025. That is the last race, Bradley, over the 1,500 metres. Time to go 5:21. And one defending is 17-15, two close at hand 9-8-50, three special sword is she ever 9-10, four fine touch 31-23, five gauge roads 650 into 550, six mean machine 7-650, seven Mystic Jane is 13, playing Quest 850 to 550. Number 9 is Bermulla 126, 10 Sail Session is 444.20. 11 Forbidden Apple 20 and Trespassing 34 into 26.
Playing Quest is the one, Mart. Oh, it's the Meek over the race.
Wow. Your team too.
Stepped in early, 1,000 places at the 290. What are you implying? Eastern States Pros stepped in. They liked the a couple of $300 bets there at the 850. And obviously that's been a national go. Not just a statewide go, Mart. A national go.
Yep.
Nash.
Aside from that, there's just a little bit of market smurging type stuff. But playing Quest, it's the one they have circled.
Yes, has to show his best at somewhere other than Bunbury. Fair to say, Brad. Hasn't had much success anywhere else in his career playing
was
Quest.
3 wide no cover last start. I don't think that made the stewards report, but was wide no cover and has fought on very nicely.
Certainly did. Really good run. Gage Rhodes for our mate Wolfie is humming at the moment. They've got him back and near his best, fair to say. Wide throughout 2 starts ago. Fought on very well, only beaten half a length Missile Storm, who had that flowing run into the race from off the speed. Last start got home really nicely in that form reference that you really like, Brad. Behind Schmoove Mover, Secret Attraction, GG Pops. I thought he was winding up really nicely over the concluding stages, suggesting the 1,500 metres might be what he's looking for and might be a box ticked for him on the weekend. The barrier is a sticking point and where he gets to in the run. Doesn't look to be a lot of speed in this race. There's horses that are going to want to hold positions, but nothing I think that'll be overly aggressive. So interesting to see what McGrady's tactics are early doors with Gage Rhodes. I thought Close at Hand was a really nice win. Beat home playing Quest last start at Bunbury, who certainly had some excuses, but he's come on really nicely this campaign and was really unlucky to start prior to that behind Missile Storm. And what's a key form reference for this race as well, Brad? It looked as though he had plenty more to offer, beaten 3.5 lengths in that race, as many of them did. It was a race where there were plenty of unlucky runs in that certain event. But, he's come on really well this campaign. And, defending's a proven weight carrier, looks to lob in a beautiful position in running, and I thought he was a huge effort in defeat last start. I know only down in Albany, but, I think he's going well enough to give this a shake.
Yeah, 100%. It's, as you said, it's another mild speed map, isn't it? And I respect the money for playing Quest. I feel like Gage Rhodes Rolls has just put together a magnificent body of work, this preparation. It's returned so well, and it could even sort of stroll to the breeze and win if things go right. So, nothing from me unless Gage Rhodes just drifts a little bit further, and then I'll be getting involved.
Yep, I'm with you, Bradley. Gage Rhodes the one I've got my eye on, but just happy to sit and wait and be patient, Martin, see what the market throws up in the last on St. Paddy's Day.
Yes, and NRL players, get your bets on because this match is about to get underway. Newcastle Knights play the Dolphins. They're $1.57 Knights. Dolphins 2.40. It's 4.5, and the total game there at 46.5. The Big Nag kicked the first goal for Richmond, and then Carlton hit back. So it's 5-4-34 leading Richmond 1-1-7. With about a minute to play. So let's round up our best bets on the card before we have a look at Narrogin and then the Bluff Knoll on Sunday down there at Albany.
Not a lot from me for the weekend, Mart. I thought it was a difficult little betting program. happy to play in race 1 with number 3, KTY, who just really took me with the manner of that win first up, and think he could be a really nice 3-year-old sprinter, and I think William Pike suits him down to the ground. I think the gap in the market's a little big for mine. So anything, if we saw a continued drift with KTY and Schmoove Mover starts even shorter, anything near $3 is going to be a nice bet, I think, in the opening race. Race 4, Tudati, one of the better bets on the program for mine. Love how that race profiles for him. Work into the race on straightening, plenty of speed, and go bang, let rip for Donga in the 4th, and then race number 8 in the feature, the Sheila Gwynne. I think $3 Bonjoy for what I think's the best horse clearly in the race. That'll get me for a bet as well, Mart. So Bonjoy and the Sheila Gwynne.
Staying with the class.
Oh, Mart, race 3, the Juveniles, Hey True Blue. I was enamoured with its trial, so $23 will do me each way. Race 5, Hang Glider, we're getting nearly each way. So,
again.
$6. Race 8, Secret Attraction, I want $4.50 plus. It'll get me in race 9. I will back Gage Rose if that gets to sort of $6 plus.
Jeez,
There's a bit of Wolfie areas, isn't there?
Hey, whoever.
Wolfie.
Man in form.
Traction.
Nothing to do with the fact that we've just got roped them in for the quokka either.
See that? All right, let's have a look now at our betting at Narrogin on Saturday in Narrogin Cup. They started off with Friday night. They got the Red Hots on down there, and then Saturday. Just having a look at the radar, they are getting pummeled at the moment down Narrogin Way. So hopefully it's not going to affect racing at all. The Trots or the Swan Draft Narrogin Cup. And Stormageddon, is he just going to make a clean sweep out of all these cups, is he?
Why not?
Mickey G.
Why not?
Come on.
They haven't stepped in yet, Mart.
No. Come on, give us the flux.
Well, it's still there, $1.85.
Yeah.
Surely.
Well, he was shorter in the Esperance Cup, wasn't he?
$1.55.
Yeah.
Well, it's been a pretty quiet betting race so far.
Can the stablemate turn the tables?
Well, that's steady at the $3.40. Stormageddon, $1.85. Also steady, just because it's been a pretty quiet betting race so far. Henry the Aviator, $9. A Big Swoop, $8.50. Brave Contender, $21. Elite Fighter, $18. Prince Tequila, $31. Trubinsky, $14. Wheat Stack, $3.51. Mart, punters haven't really stepped in yet, but it'll be in some multis. Roll Stormageddon.
Certainly will. Just ambled up to them in that Esperance Cup, and Clint Johnston Porter need only shake the reins a little bit in the straight there, Mart.
Yeah.
Certainly wasn't his most strenuous riding fee that he's earned. That ride on Stormageddon, it was a very easy watch. Perhaps not in the middle stages where he found himself back a clear last, but once they'd fanned on that corner at Esperance, you thought, here we go.
He was moving up before that home bend, and you knew that he was just going to cover them. The younger bro gets it.
It just seemed like, though, it was like this. He was back last towards the inside, and it was almost as if he just had this saloon passage through the field where they've just said, yep, we'll get out your way.
Yep.
And there you go.
And he did the rest. So younger brother takes over, Zephyr Johnson Porter, in the Narrogin Cup.
Yep, can understand that. Zephyr rode Satino, who ran second in that Esperance Cup last start, so a really good opportunity for him. And he's looking, I will say, terrific in the saddle at the moment, Mart.
How about your man Alex Hearn riding Elite Fighter for Joshy Brown?
He was a super run. I was a bit of a query on him seeing out the trip in that Esperance Cup, but gee, he was certainly justified them going to that race. No doubt about that. He was a really good performance. I think from a place perspective, he looks a nice price there at around that $3.50 mark to run a drum. Going really well.
Before we have a look at the Bluff Knoll quarter time score, and Carlton 5-4-34 lead at Richmond 1-1-7. Goals for Carlton Akers, Cottrell, Kemp, Williams and Francis Evans. He has scored on debut for his new club, and Nankervis kicking the goal for Richmond. Layla's already taken, Lawler, I should say. Sam Lawler has already taken a very spectacular mark. He'd be leading for the car at this stage if they gave a car away. Albany, race number 7 on Sunday is a Wellington and Reeves. Good old Barry Panizza. He's now on that much vaunted Albany Race Club committee, and I'm sure he's going to do a very good job, steer the ship. Bazza. 1 Snowdome is 360. Let's get the flux, because there's been a bit of, and I did say flux.
You're pretty excited about this.
460 to 360. Just to open up. Snowdome. Some way say the winner. Mood Swings, 23. Rope them in. Now, Wolfie said, no, hang on. This can be winning this at 280. Almighty Class with Uncle Paulie, 460. Norwich, 19. Oxbridge, 16. Scissor Step, 41 into 17. What's going on there? Keep readings, 41 to 26. Morgs Freeman, spec'd into 101. Ruler Rocket, 61 to 31. I'm Spartacus is 101 to 71. Geez, you've got a good book here. Gift of the Hearts, 126. Then Harrow said, I'm getting involved. I own the slot, I own the horse, and I'm going to back it 12 into 950. So you must be able to make a quid out of this book, surely.
Doing our best as usual. But, a lot of markets merging.
Oh, well.
So we'll I'll throw that in there.
Yeah.
That little get-out-of-jail-free card. That little number. There has been money, Divine Belief. There's been at least 3 lots of 200 each way, so good support there. But Snowdome, that is proper money. There's a couple of thousand there at the 460, 500 at the 420, another 500 at the $4, and plenty of $300 bets there at the $4 as well. Snowdome, this is the one they've circled, Mart. Leading to a little bit of drifty action for Rope of the Min and Almighty Class, who are both. I reckon punters will look at both of those prices, or some punters, and think, wow, that'll almost be getting us. But starting price remains to be seen, Rolls.
Yeah, wow. Tell you what, though, one thing's for sure, Mart, the Sparks will be flying.
Yep.
In this one. Snowdome, Mood Swings, Almighty Class, Norwich, Oxbridge, Scissor Step, Divine Belief. These are all horses that generally you see them in running in the first 3.
Yep.
If not leading.
The pattern will be interesting on the day, but, what's this, 1,099, is it, from memory?
Yep.
Yeah, 1,099, the height of the bluff. Oh, magnificent marketing, that. Sometimes in those Albany races, they don't come back. You know how you see that sometimes in Albany, that you go, they're all going to stop here and some will be getting over the top. And sometimes they don't stop. But if they are stopping, I can just see McGruddy. He's the Albany specialist amongst this lot, just cutting a path through there somewhere with the class he wrote them in.
Well, he doesn't have to settle that far back either, rope them in. He can settle pretty reasonably handy. So have been races in the past where even he's led at over longer at 1,400, I think, but even at 1,200 he's been led us back before. So,
geez, we've got a good weekend, haven't we? A terrific weekend of local racing. What's wrong?
That straight-up road show is going to be anything when we get in that little bus, you and I, Martin, Rolls, and just head down to Narrogin Friday night. And then
Friday night trots, staying overnight.
Can't wait.
I'm
just laughing, thinking back to our conversation we had with Wolfie on drive during the week, Martin, and basically said, he's forward enough to win, but we're just using this as another little barrier trial for him heading towards the Quokka.
Right,
not a bad little clip if you can run top 2 in the race for a barrier trial. And that's for sure.
Bigger fish to fry for rope them in.
I do wish I heard that before I went up 250, Wolfie, but thanks, no problems. That's all right, we'll press on.
Pays to listen, mate. Tune in to Drive every weekday from 3 p.m.
Well, thanks for coming in, McGuinness. You've been very good.
Yeah, thanks.
We hope you enjoyed another stimulating episode of Straight Up. All betting markets supplied by Tab Touch. All care, no responsibility went into the production of today's podcast.